So with Kickstarter 3 of the Spectrum Next, there will be an official ZX81 core. Of course there's a ZX81 emulator by Paul Farrow on the Next, but while that was okay for playing around the ZX81 on the Next, the core promises closer timing to the original machine, and maybe the graphics will refresh better. So that got me thinking about how to make the ZX81 easier to use on the Next. The main issue for me is that the ZX81 keyboard allowed multiple commands to be accessed from a single key. The Next keyboard doesn't represent that, so you're relying on muscle memory to get the right command for the ZX81. That, I'm afraid, for me is gone, as my ZX81 died many decades ago. I'd have to have a print of the keyboard next to my Next keyboard to decide which key to press, and that would be a bit of a pain. So a dedicated keyboard that I can plug into the Next is the ideal situation. The Next has a PS2 keyboard port, so the keyboard would have to be a PS2 one. I ordered a set of transfers with the ZX81 key combinations on that I could add to a PS2 keyboard. I wanted a keyboard with keys I could remove and add blank keys to then stick the transfers onto. My first attempt to solve this was to buy a keyboard with MX type keys I could remove and add some blank white keys to that I could stick the transfers onto. The keyboard was USB, but I hoped with a PS2 adapter this would work. It didn't. The keyboard required an adapter with active circuitry in, which mine didn't have. And even if I got an adapter that did, there was no guarantee it would work. So that avenue wasn't going to work. So I tried a different tack. I bought a PS2 keyboard that in the product comments was said to work with the Next. The keys looked like MX keys, but the product description didn't confirm this. I waited for the keyboard and hoped. Unfortunately, when it arrived, it didn't have MX keys, so I couldn't replace them with my blank white key set. This was starting to get expensive, and while I hoped to do some tinkering with the ZX81 core on the Next, I wasn't sure it was worth spending any more money on it. Also, the keyboard was actually USB with a PS2 keyboard adapter. It didn't say this on the description, and when I tried it, it didn't work on the Next. I tried all the USB keyboards I had knocking around with the PS2 adapter. None of them worked. One strange thing was that with one of them, when the Next first booted, it recognised the space bar. But then when I went into the Next OS, it failed to recognise key presses. With some assistance from the Next Facebook group, thanks to Matt, I was able to change the Next configuration to use the PS2 keyboard instead of the mouse, which I don't have. When the Next boots, by default it assumes the mouse is the PS2 device. Once it was changed to the keyboard, it remembered this, so I won't need to keep changing it. You get into the configuration screen by holding the spacebar on boot, so the blank MX keys wouldn't fit on the non-MX keyboard, but I didn't want to spend any more, so it was time for a kludge. I bought a roll of white tape. I stuck this to the relevant keys and then stuck the transfers on top. But would it work for the ZX81 core? Well, I won't know for definite until Kickstarter 3 arrives, but I can try it with the ZX81 emulator, and it works on there with some caveats. Many of the keys worked as expected, but a few didn't. They were mapped to other keys on the full-size keyboard. Whether I can live with that we'll see, but it's a lot closer to the ZX81 than it was. So I hope that was interesting, and let me know if you have any better ideas in the comments. Thanks for watching.